Yo, you guys, what's up? This is your girl, Dragon, and we're going to be jumping into a really quick tutorial today. This one's for Village in the the official Fortnite Creative Discord. And he wanted to create a player reference system, basically a stat checker system, where if a player presses a button, they'll be able to view the stats of a particular player. In addition to that, he also wanted to create a randomized system where the stats will show at random increments of time. So I have both examples here. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to run a test so you guys can see what we're building. And then after that, I'll explain to you the process and show you the settings. So let's do it. Again, this is being done live, so there's no editing here. So if I do mess up, please excuse me. All right, so you see here we have the randomizer, and it just automatically loops, and it shows the player's stats each time. So in this particular tutorial, we have Team 1 and Team 2, so it just randomizes between Team 1 and Team 2. In addition to that, you can see the names here of the players that are in the game. And if I click this button, it's going to only show me Team 1. And I click it off, it's going to show the name of Team 1. And then, as well as checking my own, I can check mine. I'm Team 2. And then the name goes back. So that's what we're building. Pretty simple, really cool, you know, cool little thing to have part of your pre-game lobby or your game lobby after players choose their teams or when the game starts. So let me go ahead and show you how it works. All right, we are back. So basically this is what's happening. When players spawn into the game, they're registered via a channel device. Basically, when they spawn, an event is sent to the channel device to register them to each player reference device. For example, this is Team 1. This pad is designated to Team 1, and this pad is designated to any team, but most likely Team 2 will spawn here. And when they spawn, an event is sent to the channel device and registers them to their selected player reference device. So Team 1 is registered here, and Team 2 is registered here. Now the only device here, you can see I have two player references device, one just to display name, one to display the hologram, the name, and the stats. When the game starts, the hologram will be disabled via the channel events, the channel spawn events per player, and the player name reference device, or the player reference device dedicated to the player name, will be enabled so that it can show. All right. In addition to that, if you're doing the randomizer instead of doing this setup, you're going to want to register them the same when they spawn in. You want to go ahead and register them each to a player reference device. So I have player reference Team 1 here and player Team 2 here. All right. Cool, right? So once they're registered in, right, a player can go to the button. I'm using a switch because it basically works better than a regular button, because I'm able to send events when it's turned on, and I'm able to send events when it's turned off. So I have it when it turns on, it's going to disable the name and show the hologram, and when it's turned off, it's going to disable the hologram and show the name. And the same for Team 2. Now moving over to the randomizer set. Basically, when the game starts, the timer will begin, and the first player reference device, which is designated to Team 1, will show. When the timer is successful after 4 seconds, the Team 1 player reference device will disable. It will also start the next clock. The player 2 reference device will enable and activate. And then once this is successful, it's going to go into a loop. It's going to restart this clock and turn back on team 1 player reference and disable team 2. And that continues in a loop. If you have more than 2 teams, of course, you're going to have more clocks and, I'm sorry, more timers, and you're going to assign those to just as so. It's just going to practically go like in an order, right? So this I have for disabling team 1. This is showing team 2, and then once it's successful, it's going to go ahead and enable team 1, and then it's just going to go in a loop. But when you have like more than 2 teams, you're going to have to extend the system a little bit further. So it'll be kind of cool. You can also do this with triggers, and I did also explain that to Village in the Discord as well by using a trigger delay. So let's go ahead and check out the settings, and we're going to first start on this side. Okay. So for the channel spawn events, I have one for each team, right? And then let's see here. It's going to transmit when receiving from player spawner. This is for team 1 on player spawn, and you can see the events here. It's going to register to the random player reference device. It's going to also register to the player reference device that's here. This is the PR one, right? And then it's going to disable it at the same time. So it's going to register the player and disable it, and then also register player reference for team 1 name. So what you have going on here is you're registering the player and assigning them to this, but you want to disable it so it doesn't show. Hopefully that makes sense. I'll show that to you one more time. Now, if you're not going to do the random, you can see I have this called random. You'll just take this off, and then it'll just be tied to this system here, right? So if you are only doing random, then you're going to not want to bind these 3 here and just worry about the random here. Now that you have that binded, and if you want to add a team 2, you can see it's practically the same. We have it transmitting when player from team 2 on this spawn pad spawns. And then we have kind of the same thing going on here. Now, since team 2, this is for the random here, we're registering and then we're disabling because we don't want to show that at first. So the only one we want to show is team 1. So you'll see that it's going to register and then disable. Now, when we're talking about this system here, right, you can see, and that's these 3, the name is registered. The player reference device for the name is registered, and then we're also going to disable the hologram, which is TM2PR. All right, so now that that's done, let's check out the settings for these. So first, the name. And the major difference you'll see is that it's only showing the player details and not showing the hologram. Again, I'll go through that one more time. Hologram is off, but we're going to show those details. And I removed the curve because, I mean, you can have it if you want to, but I think it looks, you know, pretty cool without it. All right. And then for the one that you do want to show, the hologram is on, and you can see the difference. All right, everything that you've done should be binded from the channel spawn events, but you're going to want to bind something from the switch. So instead of going over those, we'll go over it when we go to the switch, and it should automatically bind through, right? So let's look at the switch. All right, and there's no functions, but there are events. So when the switch is turned on for Team 1, we want the player reference to Team 1 to activate. We also want it to enable since it was disabled at the game start when players spawn in. And then we also want to disable the name so that name doesn't show. Next, when it's turned off, we want the player reference to, let's see, the player reference for Team 1 to disable, and then the player reference for Team 1 name to enable, turning the name back on so that it's viewable. So you have a system where when it's turned on, this will disable, this will show, and when it's turned off, this will disable, and this will show. The same system echoes for Team 2. And I'll show you guys those settings here real quick. All right, let's take a look at the name. All right, and then let's look at the switch. All right, cool. All right, so that completes the system if you want to use a switch and show stats this way. Now, if you want to use the randomizer and you don't want all that, then basically everything's going to be taken place with the timer. So let's take a look here. Make sure the first timer in the system is set to start on game start. And we're going to start when receiving from timer device 2 on success. For events on success, we're going to send an event to the player reference team 1 random to disable, timer device PRR2 to start, player reference TM2 random to activate, and player reference TM2 random to enable. So basically, when the game starts, this player reference device for team 1 will already be displayed. When this is successful, we need to disable it. In addition to that, once we disable it, we need to enable and activate the team 2 player reference device. All that will take place on success. Next, we need it to start the next clock to begin the loop. This next clock will be basically a system for team 2's player reference device. So let's take a look at that. This clock does not start at game start. And it's very important that on completion behavior, both or all of your clocks are set to reset. This is going to start when timer device 1 is successful. And then on success, we're going to do the same thing but in reverse. We're going to activate player reference team 1. We're going to enable player reference team 1 random, that's why I call it there. And then timer device player reference for team 1, we're going to start it all over again. And then we're going to disable player reference team 2 random. And that completes the loop. And that completes the system. Let's go ahead and run another test. All right, this is a really cool system if you just want players to check other players' stats. Maybe you want to implement it into like a parkour game. Let's say somebody's ahead and you want to check other players' stats, you know, see how many rounds they've completed or what their score is, for players to check their own stats, like so. It's a great addition to add to your lobby to add more interaction, and this as well is really cool. All right, that completes it. I do hope this helps, and I can't wait to see what you guys do with it. Thank you, Village, for allowing me to help you with this, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.